Hey YouTube! I'm recording a lot of videos today. If you notice this chart throughout the month, I recorded them all on the same day at the end of January. And here we are with another nonfiction booktube video. So this is the book, Transfeminist Perspectives in and Beyond Transgender and Gender Studies, edited by Anne. Is it Anka or Anki? I don't know if it's German. I'm gonna go Anka. There's my German shining through. And specifically, so this book, I'll do a little brief review, but as with other videos in my kind of nonfiction booktube explorations, this is really taking a topic from this book and running with it. In general, really good book. Definitely some chapters are more academic than others, so some of it's accessible, some of it's less accessible. It was published, I believe, in 2010. So, it's a little, 2012. So it's a little dated, but it's interesting to me because it was actually published when I was in the middle of working for a major national trans organization. And so I was actually following a lot of the stuff people are talking about in this book. But if you are interested, if you are a feminist, if you're used to reading academic feminist works, it's probably a little easier for you. But if you're interested in the relationship between transgender and feminism, there's a lot of really interesting pieces in here, authors I enjoy, so I would recommend it. I wouldn't recommend every chapter the same, but it's an anthology, so what do you expect? The one that I, though, am jumping off of is Julia Serano's Reclaiming Femininity. So, what I want to talk about today is the idea of natural gender presentation versus performative or artifice or whatever. So Julia Serano in this chapter talks about the idea that a lot of people have that being femme or femme expression is automatically an artifice or performative. She talks about her personal experience growing up as a trans woman when she was young, how her personal so the overcultural idea, right, is that masculine is somehow natural and any femininity is added on in some way. And so when she grew up, however, her experience is that femininity was natural to her. So gestures, ways of speaking, etc., that we culturally consider feminine were her natural state, and that masculinity was a performance. It was something she had to put on to be safe because she was seen as a boy, and to live in that the way people assumed her to be, she had to perform masculinity. So she uses that example to show how femininity is not automatically fake or an artifice or performative or tricksy or any of these things that misogyny puts on them, and particularly trans misogyny. And I want to talk about my own experience jumping off of this. So when this discussion of natural, I think there might be a little bit, maybe she didn't intend it, but a little bit of an assumption that most people have some gender expression that feels more natural to them. And I thought about this and I realized that it's really hard for me to actually identify what would be a natural gender expression for me. I can tell you my default. My default expression is kind of lazy, kind of whatever the fuck is comfortable. I'm wearing pajama pants and a random gender t-shirt that I pulled out of a drawer. It tends to be if I'm not thinking about it, the things I pull out are just whatever's comfortable. I don't wear makeup. I don't wear jewelry, etc., or any kind of accessories gendered either way. But I'm not sure that that's natural in that if I look at the mirror at myself right now, if I look right here in this camera right now, I don't feel particularly affirmed by my comfy, lazy clothes. And I would say that the clothes that for me are most affirming to my gender do require some effort. Even if they don't, even if they feel more representative of my identity than other options, or more representative of who I am in my head. There are certain things I can wear and they feel more like who I am in my head. But even those don't feel 100% right. And they do require effort to dress in. I think with my specific gender identity, in many ways, merely having a body is dysphoric for me in a world that genders everything. I don't like to be in my body a lot. Part of my magical practice is really trying to learn a kind of embodiment that feels powerful to me, but that is not easy. So I wanted to engage with this because I also started thinking about disability. And so if you're not trans at all or not queer, whatever, if you're disabled, you might this might resonate with you. Because if you think about disability and spoons, having energy, then so femininity is certainly not performance compared to the naturalness of masculinity, but any gender signifying thing that you could put on your body in any direction can require work, right? It might be makeup and what are other femme things? Makeup, jewelry, and that kind of thing. It might be, putting on a suit, binding your chest, other things. That requires work, and so if you do have disability, if you have low spoons, that might not be accessible to you. That often isn't accessible to me for those reasons. And even beyond that, some kind of mannerisms or behaviors aren't accessible to everyone. So, if a certain vocal tone, for example, conveys a gender, not everybody communicates with their voice, or has control over how their voice sounds. If, a certain walk, not everybody moves by walking, right? So simply, those kinds of signifiers aren't accessible to everyone. And I think even if you're able-bodied, you could probably relate to this, and that your body is not always going to conform ideally to how you would like to express your gender or how you want to make your gender legible. So it might be that your gender sense of yourself in your head is super edgy, hard femme, wears 5-inch stilettos all the time, but you can't walk in heels or it's very uncomfortable to walk in heels all the time. It might be you might have a body dysmorphia or a sense of there might be something about your weight or your height or the texture of your hair or many other things that don't match what you want to convey, the gender, the expression that would match your felt sense of your gender, even if you are cisgender. So I think I totally agree with Serano that it is damaging and shitty that we think of femme as being more artificial, more performative than other genders that we don't respect. That for some people, themselves in full makeup is who they are, is the most. I think of Jessica Kelgren-Fozard here. She talks a lot about that. That is her in makeup and curls. She was in the hospital curling her hair with, I think, was it toilet, loo roll. So she was so disabled but needed to feel like herself, so curled her hair in the hospital bed, right? I think that is a great example. But and that was a tangent. But my point is that totally agree with Serrano's point, but I also think that it's worth noting that the idea of a natural presentation isn't accessible to everyone. Embodiment is tricky and complicated for a lot of us, and so anyway, I'm curious to hear below comments. What do you think? What's your do you experience a natural do you have an idea of what a natural presentation is for you? How is that affected by your level of ability? Maybe you've never thought about it before. That, maybe, for example, your vocal tone is really conveys the gender you want it to, and you've never really thought about the fact that that's a privilege. I'd love to hear below. And don't forget to subscribe if you like hearing about the intersections of sexuality and femme and disability. I'll talk more about it. I can talk all day. So, take care.